Ah, good afternoon, Jennifer speaking. Hello, how you doing? Pretty good. Oh, for sure. Oh no. Sure. Oh, okay, absolutely. Sure. Oh, okay. Born in Halifax. My first home was in rural Black Point on the South Shore, which is about 50k west of Halifax. At the age of 3, I moved into the city of Halifax when my parents, I guess, found the commute a little bit challenging at the time. Parents split up when I was 6. So stayed in Halifax till I was 9. Then Mom moved me and my brother to Toronto, where she was originally from. The west part of Toronto, Etobicoke, where I lived until 2007, with the exception of 1 year that I lived in London, Ontario. Yes, I went to Western University for 1 year to take science, but that didn't really work out too well, so we moved on to other things and eventually got back to school later on. Yep, I went to Humber College in Toronto at the Lakeshore campus for business administration. And then I went to Athabasca University through correspondence courses and got a Bachelor of Administration Management. They actually have a program with Humber in which they would recognize the Humber diploma as 2/3 credit worth towards their degree program. So I only had to take 8 courses to get my degree, so that was nice. But I've never physically visited Athabasca, Alberta, which is kind of unique. My mother started working shortly after the divorce in the public sector, and she spent basically, I'm trying to remember how many years now, I think 25 to 27 years as a policy analyst with the Ontario provincial government's Department of Education. My father, throughout his entire life, had been involved with the Progressive Conservative Party, involved as a campaign volunteer and at some point as political staffer. And in 1988 he ran successfully as a candidate in the federal election and got elected under the Mulroney government for the riding of South Shore, Nova Scotia. And South Shore, as it was called at the time. And towards the end of that term, when Kim Campbell became interim Prime Minister, she put my father into the cabinet. So he was Minister of Veterans Affairs for approximately 2.5 months. And then the 1993 election he ran and got defeated. So there's basically been politics on one side, public policy on the other side. Basically, the dinner table conversations have been involving current events from a very young age. And it definitely influenced me to take an interest in the world around me, as well as to gain a stronger understanding about how politics work and how Public Service Works. Yep, he's still alive. He still lives in Nova Scotia. Peter McCreath. Since being defeated, he has gone on to undertake a variety of other career things. He's now semi-retired and runs his own consulting company. Patricia, last name Gordon, Gordon. It gave me an opportunity to physically go to Ottawa on multiple occasions, observe the various buildings and see the tradition that's on display. It also gave me some insight into what it looks like to run an office of a MP. It also gave me a chance to see his constituency offices. He had a main office in the east part of the riding, and he ran satellite offices in other parts of the riding at the time, which was about 300 kilometers long. And of course I spent some time in Ottawa getting to meet and observe his staff in action, and I literally got an opportunity to sit in on the House and watch question period, watch debates, as well as travel around to other parts of Ottawa to sit in on committee meetings that he would be involved with. Gave me a chance to literally meet Prime Minister Mulroney, as well as Prime Minister Kim Campbell. I met Prime Minister Joe Clark. I even had an opportunity to go over to 24 Sussex for a social function, and that was really neat. I would have been 19 at that time, because I remember it was Brian Mulroney's birthday party was on St. Patrick's Day, and it was March break, and I went up to Ottawa for the week. Yeah. At the same time, I will point out, my father never pushed me into political opinions. Just because he was progressive conservative didn't necessarily mean he put any expectations on me. It was more of a educational, open-mindedness thing. I want you to take this all in and learn about your country and figure out for yourself who you are, where you stand on issues and things like that. I think he's got mixed reactions. He knows, I guess, the scrutiny political candidates face, and I think he's worried for my emotional well-being. He doesn't want me to face pressure or anxiety. At the same time, he's excited and delighted that I'm offering myself up as a candidate. It's one of the most, what's the word? Perhaps honorable thing you can do for your country is put your name forward and devote yourself to make your country a better place. I think there's a combination of reasons. One, I'll say that provincially in Newfoundland right now, there's not any political parties that I feel comfortable joining or supporting, let alone running as a candidate. At the federal level, Strength in Democracy is a party that I'm a member of. I believe in what they stand for, and I want to be a part of them. timing as well. There is a federal election coming up shortly, and I guess all of, and from my personal life, my ducks are lined up, or the stars are aligned, that makes it feasible for me to run as a candidate at this time. It's something I want to do. It's something I'm passionate about. I think it's a job that I can do well, and I honestly think there's a strong chance that the people of Avalon will give me their trust and confidence. Sure. Yeah, it's kind of a unique riding because geographically it's mostly rural. However, more than half of the eligible voters live in the, I guess what we'll call the suburbs of St. John's. The cities, I guess it's technically not cities, they're towns. The town of Paradise and the city of Conception Bay South both pretty much border St. John's, and many would argue that it's all part of one big metropolitan area, but for whatever reasons, when they redid the boundaries, they decided to keep those as part of Avalon. Now, if you go west about 100 kilometers, you'll get 3 smaller towns of approximately 5,000 to 6,000 apiece: Harbor Grace, Carbonear, and Bay Roberts. In their own rights are a small metropolitan center of their own, one that often feels shortchanged and left out because of the enormity of St. John's. Yet they don't necessarily see themselves as rural, and I spent a lot of time specifically in Harbor Grace. It's a beautiful town, and I've got a lot of friends there, and I love it, and I want to do whatever I can to help raise its profile. Meanwhile, the rest of the riding, the majority of the population is on the waterfront. Literally small little towns all the way around the Avalon Peninsula. Fishing villages. I think there's just a lot of older people, seniors that have lived there the whole life. Some of them, I guess, tourism is their big industry in the summer. Ultimately, there's not a lot of attention paid to them, and I specifically want to make an effort to get out to each and every little town and let them know that I'm not just looking for votes in the big city parts of the riding, that I am truly interested in seeing the whole riding and getting to know the people there. As far as other people or other candidates, I think it's worth noting that the Conservative Party has no candidate in place. In fact, they had a candidate, the local Conservative Riding Association had a candidate in mind, Jess Crosby, but Stephen Harper's office said, no, we will not accept this person's nomination. The Liberals have had their nomination, and Ken MacDonald is going to be their candidate. He is the current mayor of the town of the city of Conception Bay South. I'm not sure if he plans to take a leave of absence while campaigning or not. I believe there is a Green Party candidate that has been named. The NDPs will not be choosing a candidate until August 23rd. In my opinion, that's a sign that they are, ironically enough, they are the ones who are not ready. And we're still waiting to hear whether or not the incumbent, Scott Andrews, the former Liberal who's now an independent MP, we still don't know whether or not he will seek re-election or not. Yeah, so as far as my understanding, as far as the Liberals are concerned, Andrews is no longer a member of the Liberal caucus. He's no longer a member of the Liberal Party. He does not speak for them. He does not represent them. And if he does run in this election, he will be running as an independent candidate. And there's a buzz around the communities that I've been to that there's concern that the Liberal supporters are divided on this. Some of them feel Scott was unfairly kicked out of caucus, and they have said they will file a protest vote. They will not support the official Liberal candidate. They will support Scott. So there's a good chance that whatever Liberal support is out there, it may be split between these two candidates. And I guess that would ultimately have both of them worried. At the same time, with no Conservative candidate out there, and with no NDP candidate for another couple weeks, added to the fact that the riding, I don't think, has ever put forward an NDP MP, it kind of makes this a wide open race. And I also think it's a riding where there's evidence of potential frustration among voters. They see all this interfering and peddling, and that's another reason I think that the Strength and Democracy model would be a good fit. It would offer them something completely different from what the other parties have thrown at them. And in my opinion, the other parties have insulted them and insulted their intelligence. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to campaign. And no matter what, it's going to be an amazing learning experience for me. And that's as well something I'm quite excited about. I was announced candidate by the party approximately 3 to 4 weeks ago. I believe it was July 16th that we put the press release out. We have no riding association, so it was simply a matter of me speaking with party officials. And it truly is a democracy when a proposed member steps forward and says they want to be a candidate. Their potential candidacy is run by other party members, and a discussion is held, and ultimately support was given. Yes, we like what we see in terms of what Jennifer McCreath can bring to the table, and they agreed that I should be the candidate for Avalon. I do not actually know at this point how many official party members there are. We have, right now I believe we have 10 candidates? Or no, it's 11 actually. I believe 11. I think there's the 9 new candidates, plus there's the 2 MPs who are on a different page. And apparently, now I'm sure anyone would tell you this, but we're working on more, and we suspect there will be more. And we suspect there will be more provinces represented. Right now we only have candidates in 3 provinces, but there's definitely a good chance we will have candidates in several more. Yeah, I think Northern Ontario, there's some discussions taking place with someone, and New Brunswick is a strong possibility. And we're also recruiting for Labrador. Out of the 7 Newfoundland and Labrador ridings, in addition to Avalon, I think Labrador is one that we would like to have presence. Heck, we'd like to have a candidate in all 338 ridings, but at this point it's one at a time. And just getting our voice out there, and we're disappointed that we were excluded from the Maclean's debate. We feel that that is unfair, especially if the Green Party, who had 2 sitting MPs, was allowed in. Why not include the other 2 parties that had 2 MPs? But at the same time, we understand that media isn't always about being fair, it's about selling media. And that gives us a challenge of finding other ways to get our message out there and bringing hopefully a positive campaign style. We're not going to be focusing on a negative campaign, attacking others so much, as we want to create a platform for positive ideas to be put on the table. Oh yes. I was a senior policy analyst, Provincial Public Service of Newfoundland and Labrador, with the Office of the Chief Information Officer, which is a fancy way of saying the IT department. I was hired as a temporary employee with a 1-year assignment, and I was then given 4 consecutive 3-month extensions, and then it was not renewed after that last one. So I was there for just under 2 years. I was officially laid off and looking for work. It took me, 10 months to find another job. I did land a job, also with the Provincial Public Service of Newfoundland and Labrador, but a much lower level job, an administrative clerical role with the Crown Attorney's Office in their records department, information management, where I spent approximately 3 years turning paper into electronic documents and classifying them in databases and basically keeping information in the database up to date. And on March 31st, our provincial government brought down a budget that included a huge amount of public service cuts, and the entire records office of the Crown Attorney's Department was let go, laid off, closed, and we were then subjected to bumping rights, and I was bumped over to the police station of all places, where I was put in the call center, literally fielding 911 and other inquiries from the public, as well as doing some police cruiser dispatch management work. I actually left there late last year, and I have been looking for work ever since. And I have also been selling sports memorabilia on eBay auctions to help pay the rent. Throughout my life, I'm essentially going through a lifetime of collectibles and what's the word? Downsizing my storage room. No, not at this point. I am now. We will have conversations about part of our everyone's campaign, both at the constituent level and as a national party level, with fundraising. And we're going to have conversations as a team about what we do with the money we raise for the party and how much of it will be put into marketing and advertising, how much we want to put to each candidate, etc. Yeah, we haven't sorted out details as of yet. I do have a couple of people who have come forward to be volunteers. In the near future, two things I need to do is name an agent and an auditor. And I'm very close to being able to formally name these people. I also have, I guess we'll call them acquaintances online who are helping spread campaign news through retweeting and forwarding, sharing, among other things. And later on in my campaign, we will get some literature printed up, and we will try to do a door-to-door blitz and knock on as many doors as we can in the riding, chat with people, and drop off literature. At the same time, you're not going to see advertising probably on television as frequently as some of the other big parties. I don't have $1 million budget, let's say. But I think that's good. I'm excited. I'm not trying to buy votes, and I don't want to buy votes. I want to have genuine conversations and earn people's trust that way. Ultimately, I think when I ran 2 years ago in the municipal election, it was the face-to-face conversations, or it was the blogs and the videos discussing the issues that really got people willing to trust me and have faith and believe in my abilities. I believe the number was 5,785, which was 17% of the vote, which was amazing considering 6 weeks prior I could not even find 2 people willing to sign my nomination papers. So I went a long way throughout a 6-week campaign that was very low budget and part-time. I believe I stated at the time that part of it was people were concerned with the stigma of being seen supporting a transgendered candidate. Sadly, that was still a problem in society and still is in many ways. It's not that people don't like me or don't support me. They're worried about what their family will think, their friends will think, or even their employers will think if they publicly support Jennifer McCreath, the transgender candidate. And the only way we can overcome these stigmas and fears is to have more people who are transgendered step up to the plate and put their name on the ballot. And I'm really excited that I'm constantly, every time I leave my house, whether I like it or not, I'm doing transgender education and awareness work. People are going to meet me. I might be the only transgender person they've ever met. and hopefully they will walk away from that being enriched and educated in society. And I hope that when people meet me, they'll say, wow, there's a articulate, educated person that cares about the world they live in. And there's no reason to be afraid. Yeah, I mean, technically the word trans in the dictionary means to change. I have gone through a transition. There's really a debate among the trans community as to whether or not there's a start and end date, or whether you're transitioning and evolving throughout your life. I've taken this transition about as far as I'm capable of doing it. Now, if I had the financial resources of Caitlyn Jenner, I could spend a lot more money on other types of surgeries. I could fix my hair, I could fix my voice, but at this point I'm not really looking to do that anyway. I'm happy, I'm comfortable, I'm confident. I like who I am, I like where I am. I've gone through the genital surgery, which I felt was a critically important part of this, so that's done. I've been on estrogen therapy for 7 years, and it's essentially feminized my body to the point where it's as feminine as it can be and will be. I don't think it's really fair to label someone just because they went through a medical procedure. At the same time, it could be considered a badge of honor because you've gone through so much struggles and challenges. People take pride in being able to say they are a cancer survivor, for example. I've gone through the transition, which means I've gone through some drastic physical changes as well as psychological and social changes. And I've faced a lot of challenges and struggles in this world, but it's also enriched me in so many ways because it's forced me to learn how to negotiate the systems that are out there. Yeah, I like to think that my life experience actually gives me an advantage and makes me a stronger candidate because I know how government operates. I know what it's like to look at red tape in a variety of different departments. I've dealt with the healthcare system, I've dealt with the justice system, I've dealt with human rights commissions, I've dealt with vital statistic offices, Service Canada. I understand the challenges and the differences between different levels of government. And it's also taught me the art of change management and in some ways marketing and advertising, how to positively sell a change that many people might perceive as negative or dangerous. But as far as labels, I'm happy to embrace it as not for being transgender, but for surviving and striving through the transition process. Likewise, I love being referred to as a marathon runner. I've run 30 marathons, and that's something I'm very proud of. Proud to be a Newfoundlander. I wasn't born here, but I've lived here long enough that I can say this is my home, and this is where I want to live the rest of my life. Except let's say a little more than 8. June 2007. the actual process, I guess figured out that this is what I needed to do in January 2007. I didn't really come out publicly until December 2007. There was some work behind the scenes to prepare me. First and foremost, I needed to get myself in better physical conditions. At that time, January 2007, I took up distance running and lost 75 pounds and became an avid marathon runner in the process. I also needed to find a better job because I knew that the healthcare systems weren't going to cover the costs of everything. So that's what led me to take a job search beyond Ontario and into the rest of the country, which resulted in me finding a good job here in Newfoundland. So I didn't actually come here as Jennifer, but I became Jennifer shortly after I arrived, which means there was no comparison or legacy to have to contend with. That was a challenge for people who had known me in Ontario and Nova Scotia. They liked who I used to be, whereas Newfoundland never really got a chance to see the old me. I think it was great in many ways. It gave me a chance to build my new self and new image without having to compete against anything. One of the challenges a lot of trans people face are those comparisons that people will make. We liked who you used to be, and then they'll point out you wouldn't have these challenges had you not gone through this. And there really was nothing to compare it with, and I very quickly wanted to be out publicly. I wanted everyone in the province to know who I was, to learn about this issue, and hopefully sympathize and support me and recognize the challenges I went through. And I think a lot of people who know of me would say Jennifer is a courageous, brave person who has won a lot of battles. And I'd like to hope I am well respected. Yes. I think it's just a combination. I mean, campaigning in a federal election is a huge project. If you're going to do it well, you're going to need time, you're going to need energy, you're going to need some financial resources. I've been fortunate enough to have an excellent summer, physically and emotionally. I have battled anxiety and depression in the past, but those are not affecting me at this time. I've recovered from physical injuries I had in a knee and an ankle, which has allowed me to get back into running and lose some of the weight that I've gained. So I'm now of strong mind and of strong body. Financially, I'm fortunate that I have built up a base of credit throughout my life where I can afford, at this point, not to work. And I can still keep the bills paid. And I'll also say thank you to the wonderful world of eBay and that closet full of goodies. Which will definitely bring in some extra cash flow. A lot of what I'm actually unloading are VHS tapes of pro wrestling, which were released back in the 80s when I was growing up and never made available on DVD, so they're rare and hard to find for the collector. I haven't yet gone through them, but I spent many years in Toronto as a hockey fan collecting autographs from the players as they left the arena. So I have thousands of Toronto Maple Leaf and other team autograph pictures, autographed pucks, all sorts of things that could potentially be put up on eBay. It's some people say, well, you're not really working, but in other ways, yes, I sort of am. I like to keep busy as well, and I think I've fought a lot of battles for the transgender activist movements. I've been involved with organizing gay pride weeks to the point where it's now time for me to take on something different. And restoring democracy or faith in citizens is something I've always felt strongly about. It bothers me that half eligible voters don't vote, and that was part of my campaign in 2013. I want to find people who don't trust the system and earn their trust, get people to vote for the first time. And I would imagine that most of the votes I got were from people who had never voted before. And I want more people to take an interest in their province and their country, to step up to the plate and give back and to care. And I think this is a great way to do that. Hard to say. If anyone, what would you be looking to get from them? Just comments about me? Oh, okay. I doubt either my parents would be willing to talk. I might be able to find some activist colleagues or friends or acquaintances. Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that though. But I'll do what I can to get you some names and some email addresses or phone numbers. I would say relatively, yes. I speak with them every week and try to visit each one twice a year. Either me going to visit them or them coming here to visit me. The other part of the story is I have a brother who has sadly not accepted my transition and does not wish to speak with me or see me. He refuses to acknowledge that I even exist. So that is part of the, I guess, the sad reality of transition. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, well, I'll try to run that by a few folks tonight, and we'll get those out to you at some point. Okay. Yeah. I have one person in mind, actually two people in mind that you may be able to speak with as early as tomorrow morning, so I'll do some arm twisting. Wonderful. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Sure. I was originally named Jefferson Gordon McCreath, and my new name went to Jennifer Jefferson Gordon McCreath, symbolically saying it's still me, we're just making a few upgrades. And I'll even give out a plug. One of the reasons I chose Jennifer is because I was inspired by curling champion Jennifer Jones. And I have met her and I have told her that. She didn't quite know what to make of that. Oh, wow. I follow curling avidly. One of my favorite sports. Tennis is another sport I love. Jennifer Capriati was a favorite of mine growing up. I could maybe say that she played a little bit of a role in that. Ultimately, though, I wanted a J name, and I wanted a name that was fairly common. So, I can't even remember. I think Julie and Jessica were also considerations. But one day I just woke up and said, that's it, I'm finalizing it, it's Jennifer. Yeah. And it's great because it's really given me a title, a new lease on life. And it's just as tough as the past 8.5 to 9 years have been. They've been the best 8.5 years of my life by far. Which is good news. Mm-hmm. Oh. Oh, glad to do it. Oh yeah, no problem. I like getting that story out there because I think it's an important one. Alright, well I'll follow up with you tonight. Alright, take care. Bye. Another long interview. They're going to have to write a textbook. It's not just going to be a newspaper article. That was the Globe and Mail. And I always look at the screen. I got to look right at the camera. How's that? Jennifer McCreath, August 10th, 2015. I'm going to turn the camera off now.